What is helium-3 energy?
Yeah, so helium-3 is an element that doesn't get to Earth very much because our atmosphere and our gravitational field prevent it from landing on the Earth. So an ounce of helium-3 on the Earth is very, very expensive, and the business case doesn't really close. But on the moon or on the asteroids, there's a ton of helium-3. And so to give you an example of what it means, if we were to mine the moon for helium-3, we could, at the current level of electricity use in America, or not in America, in the globe, we could power the energy needs of the human race for thousands of years based on the helium-3 that's on the moon right now. And and so the twist there is China is there on the moon, on the far side of the moon. We don't know what they're doing because we don't have infrastructure up there to even see what's going on. But we do know they're mining helium-3. And so
we legitimately don't know what China is doing on the other side of the moon.
No, we don't.
China, they're on it's called the dark side of the moon, which basically means it's the side of the moon that we can't observe from Earth, from India and China. But China, they've been collecting samples already and sending it to Earth, but they found this brand new material, chungastite. And it's this clear crystal and it's colorless, but it contains this element called helium-3 that it's produced by the sun. So the sun produces it, and since the moon doesn't have an atmosphere, it just has been collecting on the moon. But it's this element, you can use it to create unlimited, clean, radiation-free energy.
So they're going to be mining the moon?
They're going to be mining the moon. China's they're ahead of the game. We were talking about mining the ocean floor. Probably shouldn't be mining the moon either.
No.
I mean, that could be the start of the next war.
Besides helium-3, the composite material, like the soil, the rocks and stuff, it's the same material that we have on Earth. So it's made up of the same elements and stuff.
Except for this helium-3.
Yeah, because there's no atmosphere, so the sun can put helium-3 there. But it's basically a part of the Earth. What if the hollow Earth is just God took out the center of the Earth and made it the moon?
That's a fun theory.
It's not a theory, it's a fact.
A company in California successfully slingshotted satellites into space, and this is how they did it. The company thought, what if we could launch satellites without using rockets, seeing as they always explode on the platform, as we saw just the other day with the SpaceX launch. So what they did is they came up with a 33-meter vacuum chamber, and they had an insane idea, and that was to spin the satellite so fast that it hits hypersonic speeds and then just shoot it into space. The speed that it would reach is 5,000 miles per hour. That's 8,000 kilometers an hour. 6 times the speed of sound. No massive rockets, no tons of fuel, just physics. And this makes launches 10 times cheaper because you're not burning all that fuel. But there was one problem. The G-forces are insane. It had to survive 10,000 Gs, which is basically like strapping a satellite to a nuclear blender. But they did prove the concept works. They had 10 successful launches, even one going to NASA. But they no longer do it. They just build satellites now, which is sad because I thought it was quite a gripping idea.
Something weird is going on around the world this week with the weather. In Guizhou, China, floodwaters surged over 837 feet, swallowing up neighborhoods and roads. Experts are saying that this is a once-in-a-50-year flood, and locals are saying they've never seen anything like this in their life. In Alabama today, an absolutely massive weather phenomenon appeared and then disappeared over Birmingham. Experts are saying that this could be a meteor or it was a radar glitch. And while media is reporting that now June is the new July with intense summer heats coming earlier than ever before, it is hailing in Tampa, Florida today. There is a 4.2 magnitude earthquake in Albania today. Buses in New York are falling into sinkholes because of the heat, and bridges in China are collapsing because of the rain.
Human cells can now be reprogrammed using only sound. We've been using ultrasound to quite literally shatter tumor cells for a while now. If you think of an opera singer shattering a wine glass with their voice, it's the same concept, it's just with cells. These techniques have been used to reduce the size of tumors and shatter cancer cells like leukemia. This research is called Sonogenetics, and it can be used to quite literally turn on and off genes. This can be used to treat way different things like Parkinson's or even blindness. Everything has a frequency, even cells. Now the outside of the cell, think of that like a water droplet on a speaker. Different frequencies can make it dance or change shape. Say you want to target something inside the cell, you would need to then know the harmonics. In this example, paint, oil, and water are all mixed. Different frequencies will vibrate the different fluids. You know those frequencies, it allows you to pretty much control them. You have devices like the Simoscope that can measure these frequencies and then show you what they look like. So my question is, were the builders of these aware of this before we were? Nobody knows who really designed them, but we know they had a deep knowledge of acoustics. In every cathedral, there's an ambulatory. That has the same geometry as a cavity resonator. In the center of that resonator is an interference pattern. Same thing we see in cymatics. You make those by playing a frequency through a speaker and you get a pattern. To find the resonance of a building, you record the silence of that building and then amplify it to get the sound. Here's the weird part. Those patterns match the patterns that we see all over the building. If you think it's a coincidence, understand that DNA also makes these patterns. When you look at the molecular bonds of DNA from the top down, they form radial harmonic patterns. If this research discovers that harmonic patterns harmonize our genes, maybe our care facilities will start to look more like that than this, which is a win for everyone.
This guy went from working at Lockheed Martin to build a dome promised to heal humanity through resonance. And right before it was completed, he mysteriously died and was cremated without his family knowing. Okay, so George Van Tassel, he worked as an aviation engineer for Lockheed Martin, who was supposedly contacted by this interdimensional being, did not like nuclear war, followed by a being telepathically gave him instructions to build something named an Integratron. It gets so interesting. This Integratron was centered around plasma. Yes, plasma, the fourth state of matter. It has metaphysical applications, he said. I'm also writing a book about plasma. The link is in my bio, but I just figured this out and I'm freaking. According to him and the being, building was built to generate these magnetic fields that would result in the generation of plasma in the form of a coronal discharge and negative air ionization inside the building. It would help everything from anti-aging to possibly curing cancer. It had to do with a Tesla coil. Building would basically resonate with the cell's frequency, recharging the cells of a person, rejuvenating them. And right before he finished it, he literally died and vanished. And I'm not into like conspiracies, but this one, like, I think is real. I also think it's real because plasma does have healing properties. I think he didn't achieve it. I guess maybe the government, whatever. So we have some weird doomsday prophecies, and that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because plasma reflects belief. I think this plasma stuff is magic. You just need a healed nervous system to be able to channel it and ground it in reality.
This miraculous staircase defies the laws of physics, and no one even knows who built it. In 1878, they're building this chapel in Santa Fe, New Mexico, when all of a sudden the French architect leading the construction just dies out of nowhere. The chapel was almost done, but a crucial staircase to the choir loft was never finished, and without the architect, no one knew how to do it. So the nuns of the chapel prayed to Saint Joseph for 9 days straight for someone to be sent to finish building these stairs. And lo and behold, at the end of the 9th day, a man with a toolbox riding a donkey comes into the chapel from across the desert. He tells the nuns he was sent there to finish building the stairs, but they had to grant him complete privacy during the entire process. He takes 3 months to fully construct this spiral staircase that leads into the upper loft and then just leaves without telling anyone. This is where it starts to get crazy. The nuns realized they didn't even pay him, so they went to their local lumberyard to ask how much they owed for this project. The lumberyard workers tell the nuns that no one ever came to get wood from them to build those stairs. And this is in the middle of the desert in 1878, mind you. Wood is not easy to come by nor transport. There wasn't no Home Depot door delivery service back then. Upon closer look at the staircase, the chapel curator realized not a single nail was used in its construction, yet it somehow was held up perfectly secure, measuring 20 feet high and making 2 full turns without any support from a central pole. He brings in over 120 spiral staircase experts to investigate it further, and not one of them could explain how this set of stairs was built. They described it as being physically impossible to create. Even stranger still, the exact wood used to build the staircase was confirmed to be a type of spruce which is not native to New Mexico and is also scientifically not identified anywhere else in the world. This is the mystery of the Loretto Chapel and its miraculous staircase, which still remains unexplained today.
Japan just created universal artificial blood that works for all blood types, and it's purple. Scientists at Nara Medical University developed purple blood that eliminates the need for type matching. Whether you're A, B, or O, this artificial blood works on everyone instantly. Here's how they did it. They take hemoglobin from expired donated blood and wrap it in protective synthetic shells, creating virus-free, artificial red blood cells that are actually safer than real blood. Regular blood lasts 42 days in the fridge. This artificial blood, 2 years at room temperature, 5 years refrigerated, that's 24 times longer. Think about the impact. Paramedics could carry universal blood that doesn't need refrigeration and works on anyone. No more people dying because the wrong blood type wasn't available during emergencies. They're in phase 2 human trials right now, testing up to 400 milliliter doses on volunteers. Phase 1 proved it's completely safe with only mild side effects. Commercial availability is targeted for 2030. This solves blood shortages, eliminates infection risk, and ends mismatched transfusion deaths. Japan will be the first country with commercial artificial blood. Emergency rooms, ambulances, and military medics worldwide could have instant access to life-saving blood that never expires. We're looking at saving millions of lives globally. The fact that it's purple makes it even more futuristic. In 6 years, this could be flowing through emergency rooms everywhere. Would you infuse this artificial blood in your system to save your life?
Did you know there's only one country that could survive a nuclear attack? You might think of countries like the US or Australia, but it's actually Switzerland. Hidden beneath its peaceful villages and snow-capped mountains are nearly 400,000 bunkers scattered almost everywhere. There's even one so massive it can house an entire military battalion with sleeping quarters, a hospital, and a cafeteria. In fact, Switzerland is the only country that can protect 100% of its population. But these aren't just bunkers, they're underground cities connected by kilometers of tunnels linking secret chambers, and even fake barns built to hide giant cannons. So why do they need to build so many bunkers? In World War II, with dictators on both sides, it all began as a defense strategy to protect Switzerland's neutrality. And since then, as the world's got more dangerous, the Swiss people understand the importance of being prepared. In addition to this, they also have the most guns of any nation in Europe, so no matter what happens, they will be safe from danger.
I have no respect for any single leader in the world today. I don't care what party they're from. I don't care what country they're the leader of. I don't have respect for any of them. If you nuke me, even though I'm dead, my submarines are going to nuke you and wipe you out. Yeah. This is childish behavior. This is the behavior of unhinged teenagers. What they're not leaders, they're misleaders. They're pursuing their own agendas and deceiving the public in order to get support behind those agendas. We need a whole new way to function in the world if humanity is going to continue as a species. If anybody cares about that, and I certainly do, I have 9 grandchildren. I don't want them to grow up in a world that's suddenly devastated by a nuclear holocaust because of the stupidity, the idiocy, the irresponsibility, and the macho attitudes of these teenagers in old bodies who are running the world.
You look at the group of people who meet through the BIS.
What's that?
The BIS is the Bank of International Settlements, and it's the central bank of central banks.
Where is that located?
It's in Basel, Switzerland, and it has 63 of the most powerful central banks as its members, and the New York Fed and the Fed are both shareholders. They became shareholders in 1994.
In one sentence, what's the purpose of the Bank of International Settlements?
Okay, so there are 2 things you need to know about the Bank of International Settlements.
I'm not sure my brain's big enough for this, but keep going.
It is.
Okay.
It has sovereign immunity.
What does that mean?
It's above the law.
It's its own country.
Right. It's its own country. It has its own police force. And essentially, other than one of its staff being in a car accident or minor things, no one has the legal authority to move against it. Okay, it has sovereign immunity. That's number 1. Number 2, it can move money and hold it on its bank, on its balance sheet, and manage money secretly. So if I want to, I'm grossly oversimplifying, if I want to steal $21 trillion from the U.S. government and park it on the balance sheet of the BIS, it can move it anywhere in the world, and it can keep it on its balance sheet secretly.
Why would there be an organization? But first of all, where does its power? Like, who empowered it to have sovereign immunity in the world?
It was created after World War I and sort of collected its powers and got going in the 30s. And it was created in theory to manage the reparations of the German government. But if you read the real history, it was because the Bank of England and the central bankers wanted an entity that had sovereign immunity. They wanted to be able to move money secretly. So, for example, if you look at what happened during World War II and all the money that was moving back and forth between the Germans and Americans, if you want to understand power in this world, understanding how the Bank of International Settlements and the plumbing of the central banking system works is very, very important.
We here in Europe, we live in a democracy, right? Well, think again. For instance, here in the Netherlands, even though the entire parliament voted against participating in the CBDC, the central bank digital currency, the Minister van Huffelen, this clown over here, went to the EU in Brussels and signed the agreement single-handedly, ignoring the will of both the parliament and the people. Why? Because she thinks it's important, and in her words, her opinion also counts. Also, the European Union put out a survey asking all European citizens what they think about the introduction of the CBDC. The responses were overwhelmingly negative. Everyone said, don't do it. So what do you think the EU did? Exactly, they ignored the will of the people. And in the fourth quarter of this year, the first version of the CBDC will be released. And then, in the second quarter of next year, the Dutch NLID wallet will be launched. And this is where all your money will exist. And it will be fully programmable. Even though nobody wanted this, the people didn't want it, and the parliament voted against it, it's still happening. Is this a democracy or not?
Do you know why then Rockefeller, the Ford Foundation, and Linda and Bill Gates Foundation, I don't know, are paying for the Stalwart vault in Norway to keep all the seeds that are not GMO? What is your stake on it?
The question was about why the Gates Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation, Syngenta, which is one of the largest GMO corporations, a British Swiss company, why they financed the creation of a nuclear-proof seed vault to store all the seed varieties of the entire planet up near the Arctic Circle, inaccessible by Greenpeace boats or almost anything. What's going on with that? What interest do they have? The BBC, when they did a story on it years ago, called it the Doomsday Seed Vault. I don't know. I can't answer that, but it sure is a scary thing to me. Are they planning to do something to the seed varieties of the entire planet and then be the ones who control what comes out and in what form it's genetically manipulated or not? I don't know, but it certainly is a very scary thing. One of the first things to happen when the U.S. bombed Saddam Hussein's Iraq back to the Stone Age in 2003, Iraq is the cradle of civilized agriculture, the Tigris-Euphrates Valley, Mesopotamia. And there was a seed bank of wheat varieties in a place in Iraq called Abu Ghraib. We've heard about it all through the prison. Well, during the course of the U.S. bombing of Iraq, that seed bank in Abu Ghraib disappeared. Nobody could say where it went.
Robot company that's trying to develop stuff that regenerates itself with flesh.
Oh, what?
I think it's for war. It's attempting to create some sort of energy out of natural matter. And then the big conspiracy is like they're going to kill the enemy and then eat the enemy so they can keep walking and kill more of the enemy.
So it's just zombies.
Yeah, it's a literal company.
Oh yeah, the energetic autonomous tactical robot EATR.
Yeah, Eater.
Who said it was intended to consume vegetation, not animals. One of the robot's inventors told. That's crazy. That is just like, but it's intended to eat plants.
But what if it chooses to eat flesh?
It's called Eater, dude.
Also, why do robots need to eat?
No, it's literally their
energy source.
Yeah.
That's 100% real. That's crazy. I mean, that's the next evolution of it. Obviously, if labs can create lab-grown animals and stuff, that's just, it's fuel. It's like, they're not really animals.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. But then it's like, what happens if it gets hungry? It gets locked in the house or something.
I see that going real bad.
Yeah, for real.
Dude, your dog's in half when you get home from the grocery store. Dinner is done.
This is one of the most mental things I've seen in a long time. The footage behind is the actual footage of the wedding ceremony that took place at Disneyland Paris yesterday. But what you probably don't realize is that this wedding ceremony is between an old man and a 9-year-old girl. 39-year-old British national rented out this part of Disneyland Paris for £115,000 for a couple hours to conduct a wedding. The staff then said how shocked they were when they noticed he turned up with a 9-year-old girl and her mother, who appeared to be Ukrainian. But crazier again that once this man was caught and arrested, and actually so was the mother, because why was she letting her daughter do this? It actually came out that this man is a known file in the UK and is actually wanted, and he's essentially out there hiding. But where the hell did bro get this money from? And why is he doing this? The police were called, and the event was of course called off immediately as soon as the staff noticed what was going on here. Excuse was that this was a mock wedding, which I don't even know what that means, but it definitely wasn't appropriate either way. As I say though, the man and the mother of the girl along with 2 other males were arrested. There hasn't been that much else released, but I will keep you updated.
I am here in Nairobi, Kenya, and everyone needs to know what happened right here on Tuesday. To the average person walking past, that might look like some random orange dirt, but it's not. It's covering blood. And it's also the reason I posted this video only after I left the country. You see, just a few days ago at a protest against police brutality, 2 officers shot a 22-year-old man in the head at point blank range. Crazy part is that young man named Boniface Kariuki wasn't even protesting. He was simply a street vendor selling masks when 2 officers with riot gear and shotguns approached him, punched him, and then completely unprovoked, they then left him lying here right on this spot while witnesses rushed to his aid. Little did the officers know, however, not only did someone record the entire thing, but Boniface has miraculously survived. The bullet went through his head right above his ear. But even if he does make it out of intensive care, a CT scan has showed that he has suffered severe brain damage, so his life will never be the same again. Now, here's where things get really dark. Boniface was shot at a protest where people were demanding justice for a teacher who was killed in police custody. Officers arrested a 31-year-old man named Albert Ojwang earlier this month, accusing him of, you ready? Insulting a police boss on social media. But instead of being released, just 2 days later, his wife and parents were informed that Albert was dead. Police initially claimed that it was saying that the victim hit his head on the wall multiple times until he passed away. But an autopsy later exposed the horrific truth. He was brutally beaten to death. And this goes way beyond police brutality. Kenyans are increasingly protesting the entire system in which corruption like this is allowed to take place. So, in just a couple of days' time on the 25th of June, what's being described as the mother of all protests is being organized. Yesterday, hundreds of thousands of people nationwide poured onto the streets of Kenya to protest against the Ruto government. But this was no normal protest. In preparation, police sealed off government buildings with barbed wire, they blocked off access roads to prevent them from being overrun, and the government ordered the ban of all television and radio stations from covering the demonstrations. They even reportedly started blocking apps like Telegram. And because this is a largely Gen Z-led movement, the things we saw yesterday were wild. One guy wrote a sign reading, "Dear Iran, just one missile in our state house, please." Another guy brought his dog so that he could protest too. They used slingshots, and there's even a picture going viral of a girl using a pole vault to go over the barbed wire. And what makes this protest so unique is that it was largely organized on social media using hashtags, and it had no backing amongst the main parties or trade unions. But here's the craziest part. The day before the protest, a coalition of foreign embassies issued a joint statement saying that they are concerned about the government's use of hired goons who are paid to infiltrate and disrupt peaceful protests so that the police have a justification to use force and shut things down. And yesterday, not only did the police use tear gas, water cannons, and batons, but also live ammunition. Amnesty Kenya reports that 16 people were killed, 400 injured, and 8 suffered gunshot wounds. Even CNN news reporters were on the scene wearing bulletproof vests and helmets, saying,
"That's why we wear this. We wear the flak jacket because we have seen Kenyan security forces shooting unarmed peaceful protesters."
And the people part of this Gen Z-led movement are saying these aren't just protests, it's a revolution.
CERN just powered up its biggest machine again, and things are getting weird. Reports are flying that this thing isn't just smashing particles, it's opening portals. And now, some of the people working there are openly claiming that entities have come out of those portals, and not all of them went back in. Yeah, listen to that again. People are now asking if this has anything to do with the government suddenly saying aliens are real, or that a group called the Anunnaki ancient sky gods are supposedly returning to Earth soon. And here's the part that's freaking people out. Have you noticed time feels broken lately? Like days are flying by or weeks vanishing in a blink and nobody feels grounded anymore? What if it's not just stress or screens? What if it's reality itself that's shifting? CERN's playing with the very fabric of time and space, and they've done it before. But this time people are watching. Stay alert.